that ended in 1807. So Tharp died before that, some 3 years before that. The Tharp properties at the time of his death included 7 plantations and 3 pens. Throughout his life, he owned many more plantations across Trelawny in particular. The plantations were sugar estates comprising residential buildings for owners, senior staff, and enslaved population, as well as factory buildings comprising the works for the production of sugar, molasses, and rum from the sugar cane.
Yes. Sorry, pens are like minor plantations, or just
pens,
houses?
Pens are where the animals were kept.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So an estate implies a plantation where crops are grown. Pens are where animals are grown up. These factory buildings included aqueducts, mill houses, boiler houses, distilleries, and other structures associated with the process of manufacturing sugar. The main acreage of the sugar plantation properties were used for the growing of sugar cane. The mill houses, and let me backtrack on that, the factory buildings included aqueducts, mill houses. And the mill houses could have been cattle mills, where the cattle turned the mill, movement of the cattle turned the mill. You could have had windmills, once again, use of the wind energy. And the third one, and the one that John Tharp used most politically, was the water wheel. And we saw that in Seville. So water, energy from the water wheel, wind energy, and animal, mostly cattle. Okay. So the main acreage of the sugar plantation properties were used for the growing of sugar cane. However, some sections were assigned for use by the enslaved population for the production of their own food and small livestock. Other parts were kept as woodland, as a lumber resource for the estate, and quarries for the mining of limestone for property buildings. For roads and other structures. The sugar estates owned by Tharp at his death were Covey, Good Hope, Lanspinet, Merrywood, Pantry Pan, which adjoins this property, Potosi, Wales. Those were the sugar estates, the sugar plantations. All of these are located in the parish of Trelawny and close to the largest river in the parish, the Market River. Pens were properties established for the rearing of livestock, which included cattle, horses, mules, pigs, sheep, and fowls. These pens supply the sugar estates with animals used for conveyance of people and equipment and goods, as well as meat for the estate population. Pens owned by Tharp at his death were Windsor, that's the property we are on now. Windsor property, over 6,000 acres at the time, and Top Hill in Trelawny, and the Chippenham Park Pen in St. Anne. The enslaved population listed in the inventory had their names as country of origin, age, occupation, condition, and value. So the list, the inventory, was headed up by names, country of origin, age, occupation, condition, and value. The names were just one name. There were not 2 names like we have, at least 2 names out. Christian name, surname, first name, surname. They were just one name. Sometimes you found 2, but for the most part, there was just one, which creates some difficulty in analysis. The country of origin, of course, Africa, but various parts of Africa. And where they were born in Jamaica, they were listed as Creole. Age, of course, that's here, how old they were. Occupation, what work were they engaged in on the property. Condition, it had to do with their health. Were they healthy? Were they weak? Were they sick? What were their problems? Value had to do with, and I'll explain value more at length, but value had to do with the cost, the cost in pounds. The data provides a basis for understanding the relationship between occupation and age, condition and value. To this end, the study classifies and groups related occupations and outlines how John Tharp deployed his enslaved population so as to achieve success. And he's one of the most successful planters and the richest in Jamaica at the time. The result is data that is now more manageable than before. I've grouped 63 occupation types into 6 categories for analytical purposes. The pre-work age versus the working age have been determined and quantified. Within the workforce, the division of labor represented the needs of the property, the vast majority being field workers who were selected on the basis of physical strength. I've determined that the value of occupations played a major role in determining the value of the worker. The value of the occupation itself pretty much determined the value of the worker. But their condition, that is their health primarily, and age secondarily, impacted on this value. The country of origin played no obvious part in value or occupation. As 9 of the 10 properties were located in close proximity within the same parish, that is Trelawny, and the 10th was located in an adjoining parish and could have benefited from shared human and technical resources, I chose to combine the data of their enslaved populations. Furthermore, as the objective of the analysis was to understand how Tharp deployed his workers to operate successful properties and to understand his formula for success, the combined data proved helpful. Taken singly, each property reflected its own productivity, but such a single or unitary approach ignored the synergy provided by services that quite likely were provided by adjoining properties. Therefore, to view them as productive entities isolated from one another would underestimate the value of the symbiotic relationship between pens and estates. So pens with animals, growing out pigs and so on, provide meat for the estate. So there's that relationship. Provide animal power in terms of oxen to draw the carts, horses to ride around on, and so on. This research has laid the groundwork for further study of the population of the slave society. The productivity of 2,973, which is the exact number that we were working with, enslaved people on 10 John Tharp properties in Trelawny and St. Anne, circa 1805, contributed to the status of Trelawny being one of the top manufacturing sugar parishes of the island at the time, when Jamaica was the leading producer of sugar worldwide. That's a map of Trelawny, and that gives the relative areas where the properties were. Starting in the north, Marywood, moving south, Top Hill, Potosi, Wales, Lansquenet, Good Hope, Covey, Pontrypan, and finally Windsor, further south of the north. And you recognize Windsor as where we are, okay? So the success resulted from careful planning, and effective deployment of the labor force on the properties owned by John Tharp, who was a Jamaican-born white resident planter who managed a mix of pens and plantations to attain his success. The African population, originally deprived of their skills, were retrained in skills required for the properties and contributed to skill sets they would, when later enfranchised, find helpful to live in a British structured society. There is no evidence that their original skills were used. The combined labor population on 3 pens and 7 sugar estates comprised approximately 40% of African labor, sourced circa mid-1700s from places throughout the continent of Africa, from the Songhai Empire, just south of the Sahara, to the southern part of the continent in South Africa, and around the Cape to Mozambique. The other 60% comprised a Creole population born in Jamaica of mixed forebears, predominantly black. A small fraction of the enslaved population, also likely of African extract, were quote-unquote Americans, that is, enslaved people brought by their loyalist masters fleeing the consequences of defeat in the American War of Independence, circa 1783. So just a general chart there showing the dominant Creole population and the African population and American, which is almost non-statistical. Creole numbering 1,860, African numbering 1,100, and American only 5. And they were listed as American as opposed to Creole or African. But one presumes, well, it's hard to presume. They came over from America. They could have been Creole in America as well as they could have been African. And African means they were born in Africa. Creole could have been born in Jamaica. The labor force from Africa included several ethnic groups, from Mandingo in the north to Malabar in the south, east, including Coromantee, Chamba, Moko, Nego, Angola, Wati, Chego, Banda, Popo, Kenya, and Congo. Their ages indicate that they were taken from their homeland after the mid-1700s. This further indicates that their departure from their continent occurred in the later stages of slavery, when the demand for labor in the Americas was high. This means that they were likely kidnapped and sold, and were not themselves slaves in Africa. During the earlier periods of the European trade in Africans, the slave trade involved people already enslaved in their towns and cities in Africa. This early structure of the business involved a trade in slaves per se. Later, however, as demand outstripped the supply of a previously enslaved population, the business model shifted from a trade in slaves to the capture of free Africans. This shifted the demographics to people of a wider range of social and economic backgrounds, and people with perhaps a higher technical skill set. This map shows, gives a general picture of where these enslaved Africans came from the continent. So in the blue, light blue, aqua, rectangles, we're seeing those areas.